Hi, I'm Karen Stever, GGS Pro Technical Specialist with Griffin, and today I'd like to talk to you about some great silicone products and what they can do for your plant production techniques. If at the end of this talk you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email at the address shown or give me a call at the phone number and extension shown. Silicon is the second most abundant element on the earth, and it's not been classified as an essential plant nutrient up to this time, but there are traces of silicon in water, our peat, and in all of the components that we use in plant production. So we've possibly just never really been without silica to tell that it is essential. However, these traces are not enough to elicit all of the great effects that we can get out of using a silica product. We have a lot of silica products on the market. Um, Most of them are still labeled as plant nutritional supplements. The EPA has begun regulating silica as plant health products rather than just as nutritional supplements. So many products are requiring to be relabeled and will be going off of the market for some time. Some of that's already happened and some more of it will be coming in the future. But silica is so common that it's involved in some capacity in just about every industry that I can imagine. Here's a list of some of the main uses of silica in horticulture. We use it in many of our surfactants and spray adjuvant products that are available, as well as anti-desiccant products. Silicone compounds can be used as mineral-based insecticides and fungicides, giving a more natural option than a chemical option. And we're learning more every day about how silicone is a promoter of the plant health and an inducer of systemic acquired resistance in plants. Starting with silicone surfactants, there are many products available. However, I'm only going to talk about Capsule today because it's an industry leader, really. Capsule is an organosilicone polymer with non-ionic surfactants added to it. It's engineered to be a superior spreader, a surfactant, as well as to encourage tissue penetration for whatever is in your spray solution. I like to say you can see it work, and you can see it work here. So, Capsule breaks up the water tension of mist or spray droplets. You see a water droplet on the right, and on the left you see Capsule. It spreads the solution into a thin layer that gives you more surface contact, better wetting, and if you want penetration into the tissue, it will also provide better penetration. You can see Capsule work on your plants in real time while you're spraying. In this photograph, we see Capsule applied to poinsettia propagation on the right and untreated plants on the left. And what we see is that the plants dried out in between the mist cycles on the left, and they're fairly hurt at this point. And furthermore, when we applied the mist, it's balled up into the little droplets all over the leaves. So that's not giving us the best hydration of those leaves. I'm not sure those will rehydrate unless we do put Capsule or a surfactant on them. On the right, we can see an increase in zinc uptake through tissue analysis with a foliar zinc application. The zinc was applied with or without Capsule, as shown in the graph, and what we see is we have a significant increase in the amount of zinc in the plant tissue with the Capsule compared to without it. And since it's poinsettia season, I have a tip that for you here in the bottom, that late season bractage necrosis is a calcium deficiency, and we can completely prevent that by applying foliar sprays of calcium chloride dihydrate and using Capsule to help the penetration of the calcium into the tissue. That's applying that calcium directly where it's needed, so it's a fast response. Now let's move on to some other benefits of silica for our plants. If we supplement silica, the nutrient uptake is improved and we'll see a reduction of any stresses if it they are applied, and we'll see some examples of that later. The cuticle of the plant will get thicker when you either spray or drench silicone, and that imparts resistance to insect and mite attack, as well as, believe it or not, germination of fungal spores on your plants will be inhibited because it's harder for them to enter the cuticle of the plant. And lastly, a big area of interest right now for many researchers is the systemic acquired resistance, where the natural defenses of the plants are stimulated to increase their resilience to issues and stresses. So all of these are benefits that we can see when we use silicone. I mentioned that we can apply it via spray or a soil drench. The foliar sprays will typically help with insect and disease resistance, while soil drenches are systemic and they will produce the SAR benefits, the stress tolerance, the growth and the yield increases. Not in all crops, but in some crops. And the products that we would use for this that we sell at Griffin are Silmatrix, which is the foliar spray, it's OMRI listed, and Agcel 16H, which can be used as a foliar spray or a drench. Silmatrix is a liquid registered pesticide and is OMRI listed. Agcel 16H is the soluble salts, and it is not OMRI listed. This slide shows several examples of this drought tolerance that's imparted by silicone on your plants. This is in work published by Neil Matson. What we see at the top is petunias held at a high temperature for 3 days, and we see on the right with the silicone, the plants are still standing up. We see below that New Guinea impatiens challenged with a high level of sodium chloride with and without silica. And there's an obvious difference there. And then on the right, we see wilt recovery in a poinsettia. You can see that those leaves are really curled. After recovery and hydration, we see that the plant on the left is looking much better. There are fewer signs of that leaf curl that we still see a good bit of on the right. In this slide, we're looking at the interaction of silicon with plants and the feeding insects. We see at the top that there is a mechanical barrier as part of the reduction of feeding with silicon. That is simply from the tissue becoming hard and these actual physical deposits of silicon, amorphous silicon, on the foliage. That can happen with a spray or with the drench type application. However, beyond that, I'm looking down, the induced resistance reaction has been elucidated to take a number of paths depending on what type of insect is feeding on the plant. So on the left, we see a phloem feeder, and we see that the induced resistance involves the upregulation of a number of enzymes. In the center, induced resistance, another pathway that it's enacted is a signaling pathway using jasmonic acid or other volatile molecules. And we see that those molecules can indirectly help defend the plant. They can also help to elicit parasitoids to come in and attack the invading insects. This slide really shows the intricacies that can occur with this type of silicone application. I hope I've given you enough examples to pique your interest about using silicone in your production, whether it be the surfactants, foliar sprays, or the drench applications. Before I sign off though, I think there's a few things that you would like to know about silicone. One is that not all plant species are going to react the same to silicone. Some are less sensitive to it, they don't accumulate the silicone, and in this case you may not get the full SARS reaction. But the foliar sprays at least should provide the same insect and disease control. That's a mechanical function. Silicone products, this is very important, cannot be mixed in concentrated fertilizer stock tanks. The picture here shows that precipitation that occurs when mixing with fertilizer stock. They can be mixed with dilute fertilizers, such as co-injecting into the dilute stream or feeding from a bulk tank. In general, silicon supplements are very sensitive to pH, the concentration of salts, and the concentration of metals in a solution, and they can gel or precipitate. That is a natural function of the silicone molecule. With regards to pH, we have to be careful because the gelling issues are most severe around pH 6 and surrounding it. pHs of 4 to 5 or greater than 7 will help prevent these gelling issues. These are the things to avoid. I hope I've given you some tips and, like I said, piqued your interest and that you'll give silicone a try. It has a lot of benefits for your crops. Thanks for listening today. I appreciate your time. Please feel free to contact me at ggsprotech@griffinmail.com if you should have any questions. Thank you.